to another strategy session where we hope to give you, the real estate professional, an idea, an action, or maybe just a little light bulb moment that you can apply to your real estate business. Hi, my name is Mangum, and I'm the founder of The Strategic Agent, and I want to talk about prospecting today. You see, every week I work with lots and lots of real estate agents, and something I very frequently hear is this: Joe, I didn't have enough time to prospect this week. Well, if you think about it, that's kind of a ridiculous statement, because if you don't have time to prospect, ultimately your business is going to blow away. I've been doing a lot of research on this type of topic because we've got a project that's rolling out soon called Slay the Roller Coaster. You know what I mean by the roller coaster, the income roller coaster that many agents are on. And what I found is this, that the problem with saying, I'm going to time block an hour here, or I'm going to spend this day only on prospecting, is it lacks specificity. And yeah, I pronounced that word, yay. And the other problem is just by saying an hour is just a little bit too ambiguous. So what we're going to do in this strategy session is roll out a prospecting formula, a mathematical formula for how much you need to prospect. Now, let me just go ahead and say, you may be thinking, okay, wait a second. Real estate is a relationship business and it's a service business. Nope, it is not a mathematical business. Well, that's a great question, but really, it's a little of both. Let me give you a really good non-real estate example. My first job out of college was with a software development company, and this company employed lots of young, ambitious people, and you put a lot of young, ambitious people in the same spot and you work them long hours that ultimately they're going to start dating. And that's exactly what happened. I started dating an engineer named Keith. Well, Keith had a roommate, and his name was Marvin, and I found him very intriguing. And what I found intriguing about him was he was the quintessential geek. He had a pocket protector, and he mixed up his plaids and his stripes, and he had on glasses and always was a little off, a little cattywampus, as we say in the South. And, by the way, this was before geeks were cool. There was no Bill Gates. There was no Steve Jobs yet. None of those things existed. And in addition, he was a little unfortunate in his looks. And lastly, his car was bad. His car was rusty and stuffing was coming out of the seats, and you had to climb through the driver's side to get to the passenger side. So it was really kind of this bad formula for him. But because he was my boyfriend's roommate, we traveled in the same social circles. And the thing I found interesting was he had a great date every Friday night, every Saturday night, and best I could tell, any night he wanted a great date. Well, I kept pushing my boyfriend and saying, what is it? I want to know. There's a phenomenon going on here, and I want to know what it is. And he said, look, I have no idea. So one night we all went out after work for drinks, and I found myself sitting at the bar with Marvin, and I'd had just enough gin to ask the question. And I said to Marvin, you're not all that. How are you getting these great dates? And he thought about it for a minute, and he finally said to me, well, it's mathematical. What do you mean it's mathematical? He said, well, every woman I come across, I ask them out. And the percentages work for me. And I thought, okay, it's mathematical. And he said, and the women I take out, I treat really well. And so a lot of them call me back to go out with me again. And so I always have a date any night of the week that I want a date. Well, that's real estate. It is mathematical. It is working the numbers and then doing such a great job for them that they want to come back, or they talk to people about the service. It is mathematical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a prospecting formula to you that will take you step by step of how to figure out exactly how much prospecting you need to do on a daily basis in order to hit your income goal. Now, this is what I need you to do. I need you to, if you have not already downloaded the worksheet, I need you to pause this video and go download that worksheet and print it out so you can follow as we go. And you'll be able to print it out over and over in order to understand and run different kinds of scenarios, income scenarios. So what I'm going to do, so I can take you right through it. So I'm going to switch over to my computer so we can take you right through the formula. Prospecting formula. Before we get started, pause this. If you have not gone and gotten the worksheet yet, you need to pause and go get the worksheet so you can follow along as I go through. Couple of things I want to say, just a couple of caveats. First, this formula is not dealing with a sliding scale commissions. What do I mean? If you're a person who has, for example, a fair share type of commission structure, where once you have made X amount of money, your percentage goes up significantly. I have not done that. I've intentionally tried to make this simple. And then also, I want to talk about what prospecting means. Prospecting means talking to people. It means seeing people. It means having coffee with people. It means networking with people versus mailing and emailing. Mailing and emailing are not direct prospecting activities. They are indirect prospecting activities. They do not count as prospecting. Yes, you're dripping on them, but we are going to focus on talking and seeing to people as we move through the formula. All right, you ready to see it? There's 3 steps to it, and let's start with step number 1. First thing we need to figure out is your average income per transaction, which means your average sales price, your average brokerage fee, and your average commission rate. As I have gone through here and showed you examples, which I'm about to do, I have selected numbers that are fairly random. Some of them have method to their madness, but I'm not suggesting that these are the average sales price or these are the brokerage fees or the commission rates. I'm just using them as examples. So let's go ahead and start. Let's say that the average sales price in your area is $283,000. Yep, that's kind of random. Yours may be a lot less, it may be a lot more, but I just randomly picked $283,000. Let's look at a common brokerage fee. What is the firm's commission as when the transaction closes? I selected 3%. Again, brokerage fees are totally negotiable. There is no set brokerage fees, but I chose to use 3%. If I multiply the 3% by the $283,000 sales price, then what I get is $8,490. That would be the firm's total commission. Not your commission, but the firm's total commission. Of course, if you own the firm, that would be your total commission, but most of us don't. Most of us work under the umbrella of a firm. Let's apply your commission rate. I chose 60%. Again, pretty random. Some of you are at 50, some of you are at 80. I just happened to choose 60. When I multiply that by the 8,490, I find that your gross commission income, your GCI, as you commonly hear it called, is $5,094. All right, this is an important number because once you understand what your gross commission income is per transaction, now you can go and start figuring out how many houses you have to sell in order to meet certain income goals. Well, let's assume that your income goal is $50,000 a year and your gross commission income is $5,094. If I divide those numbers, then I find that the number of houses that you have to close per year is 9.81. Now you might say, Joe, why are you using 9.81? Why don't you just round that up to 10? Because I got some more multiplying to do in order to make sure that my numbers don't multiply out funny. I'm going to stay with the decimal. So let's take the 9.81 and let's go and figure out in step 3, how much prospecting am I going to have to do? So this is really where it gets interesting, because the first question is, to close 9.81 transactions, how many appointments have I had? And I have made the decision to pick 4, that you need 4 appointments for one closing. Now you might go, that is a bad conversion rate. That's like a 25% conversion rate. Well, it really depends. If you are an agent that primarily works internet leads, where the leads are colder, yours will not be as good as 4, more than likely. However, if you are a real estate agent who works primarily referral, your conversion rate will be better than 4. Also, the other variable is how experienced you are and how good you are at conversion. That will be another variable for this, is what is your average appointments needed to result in one closing. Again, I selected 4. So if I take 9.81 and multiply it by 4, I know I'm going to need a total number of appointments of 39.24 in order to close my 9.81 houses a year. Now you might be going, what? I've got to have what? That sure does seem like a lot. Well, let me kind of talk you off the cliff by saying, all right, how many weeks are you going to work a year? And I randomly chose 48. So if I work 48 weeks a year and I need 39.24 appointments, and I divide those two, then really I just need 0.8175 appointments per week. Where if you think about it, that's really easy. That's less than a person a week that I have an appointment with. And when I say an appointment, that means a buyer where I'm showing them a house, or a listing where I've done a listing appointment, or maybe I have a listing and it expired, or they changed their mind, or whatever the case may be. But that's what I'm talking about when I talk about an appointment. All right, that number 0.8175 is going to be an important number to us as we go forward. The question, and this is really the big question, how many people am I going to have to talk to see in order to get that many appointments per week? I randomly, and it's not random, I chose the number 30. And I chose number 30 as I have seen many of these models over the last 20 plus years. I've seen 40 very regularly. I've seen 30 very regularly. Again, it is going to vary on the source of your contacts. If you are doing primarily cold types of prospecting, it's not going to be as good as 30. If you're doing much warmer or hot forms of prospecting, then actually it will be better. So what do I mean by cold, warm, hot? Cold are people who don't know anything about you. And usually, that's like internet leads, expireds for some owners, those kind of things. Warms are phone duty, open houses fall into the warm category, and hot category are people who know or know of you already in a favorable light. In other words, your sphere of influence. So this number will vary on that. If I take 0.8175 and multiply it by 30, then I have to have a total number of contacts per week of 24.52. Well, again, that can feel like a lot. That's almost 25 contacts a week. Well, let's just break it down into how many days a week are you going to work. And I'm being incredibly generous when I say 5 days a week, because we all know real estate agents usually work more than 5 days a week. And so, but if I take that and I divide it by 5 days a week, that means I have to have 5 contacts per day. 5. That's it, in order to make $50,000 at a 60% commission rate. Just 5. Just 5. Now, I'm just sitting here saying just 5. And you might be going, 5? Where am I going to get 5 people? Well, you're going to be calling people that you know, people in your sphere of influence. You're going to be doing open houses. You're going to be doing phone duty. You might call for sale by owners. You might call it expireds. You might be doing gosh, there's just so many different ways of how you meet people and you make your 5 contacts a day. And when you focus on this number, it becomes very specific. This is how many I have to work on versus I'm going to sit out an hour a day. How many people do I need to talk to? And I find that when you are specific like this, it makes it a lot easier. I know several people who are really, really strong agents that they have their number and they do not finish their day until they have their number. I have seen them on their way home stop at a bar at a hotel to talk to out-of-town people and hand out cards in order to make their number. They know if they focus on the number, it ultimately works. So what do you need to do? Well, it's time for a little action here. Well, first, you need to discover your numbers. Take a look at this. Average house price, brokerage fee, commission rate, conversion rate, and number of contacts per one appointment. And if you don't have these, there are ways to discover them. All right, so what did y'all think about the formula? Again, you need the action of going and figuring out some of your numbers. Make sure to go and look at your average house price, your average commission rate, those types of things, your average conversion. And again, how do you figure those out? You spend a bit of time tracking them for a month or so until you figure out your numbers. The really productive, successful real estate agents know their numbers. It's time for you to know yours too. All right, thank you so much for coming to the strategy session. We'll have another one coming next week. I'll see you then.